Hello, I'm Ray Bradshaw and this is the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, views and analysis you need on Tuesday the 18th of November. And this is it, the big one.
When I took the job, I looked at the group of players and I said, I look forward to working with this group of players because I think we can achieve good things. We've managed to do that. Now we've got another very, very good thing that we can achieve together.
The manager knows what's at stake in this game. We face the group's top seeds who know the importance of the match as well.
Everyone is knowing that it's a kind of a final now at Hampden. If you have a bad game in a final, you don't have a second chance. And that's how I see the Danish team.
But could a stomach bug be Scotland's secret weapon? It's all set up for what promises to be a sensational evening at Hampden.
We have played in the big games. We've got that experience, but there's no playing down this game. It's obviously a massive game for us, and we know what a win would do.
We'll guide you through the biggest Scotland match in years.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
Yes, after what feels like a long 3 days since that night's 80 minutes in Athens, we're so close to the Scotland game tonight. We're joined by two guests to chat us through as ever. First up, we got Michael Grant, the Times Scottish football correspondent. Michael, how are you? Excited for the game tonight?
I am. Yeah, it's hard to underplay this, Ray, isn't it? I mean, it really is. We give a lot of billing to matches and talk them up, but by God, this one is enormous in terms of the potential rewards for us. We do it, So yeah, listen, it's going to be some day. This build-up's going to be just a charging up of adrenaline all through the day.
Yeah, and we're also joined by Scott Allan, the former Scotland under-21 midfielder. If you want to know his clubs, go on Wikipedia. It's way too long to mention. Scott, for you tonight, how are you feeling about it?
Nervous and excited. I think obviously it's been well documented how long it's been. But I think if you asked anybody, game in isolation, one off head to head against Denmark, I think you'd have grabbed it with both hands. But we're going to need a monumental performance tonight. I think that's been lacking over most recent games, putting together a 90-minute performance. But tonight you're going to have a bit of everything, and one of the most things you're going to need is a bit of luck as well to go on your side.
Yeah, let's get into the game. So it's all we're going to talk about because, I mean, we've said in the build-up, the biggest Scotland match in years. I feel like we've been here before, Michael. I feel like we've been here with Ukraine. I feel like we've been here with Germany in the Euros, when we got Czech Republic back in 2021. Do you think we're going into this on a high after that last half hour out in Athens, or what do you think?
I think that's a really interesting question because it was strange. We were out in Athens at the weekend and it was a strange kind of mood because it was kind of beat after a defeat, and you were trying to kind of process it and get your head around it. And even the nature of the game was weird. It was hellish trying to cover it when you're sending a match report right in the final whistle. There's so much going on. But you go from 3-0 down and the news from Copenhagen that the Danes were already winning. So you think, well, this is it. We're going to the playoffs in March. I think the players said that to us later, that we'd kind of resigned ourselves to the playoff. And then suddenly we get a goal back. We get the news that the Belarusians have equalised and gone ahead. Then we're scoring again, and Greece have got a man's off, and chances. We're playing much better, miles better than we had in the first half. And you think, well, where's this come from? And I think all of that makes tonight's game really difficult to call because Scotland at their worst are going to lose this match or drop the points and fail. Scotland at their best can win this, and we just don't really know what we're going to get. And we also don't know whether we're going to get it for 90 minutes. This team plays in patches, doesn't it? It blows hot and cold.
Yeah, I think I was in the stadium in Athens as a fan, and I think that maybe 7-minute period when we scored 2 goals and Belarus went 2-1 up is some of the best 7 minutes I've ever had in a football stadium. The previous 65 was some of the worst football I've ever had in a stadium. Scott, we missed so many chances in that game. It's only I came back afterwards, watched the highlights, and you realise there's that 2 one-on-ones, the incredible McTominay save. A chat I had with someone yesterday is Steve Clarke's played 2 up front against Denmark before. Do you see him going for that again? And if we do go 1 up, does he keep the faith with Che Adams?
Well, we had the 2 up, but we had the bodies behind the ball. And I think it was Che Adams on the day dropped back in to try and pick up the pivot that was playing for Denmark. I really don't know what he's going to do tonight. Do you start with Adams? Do you start with Dykes? Me personally, I would go with Dykes tonight. I think he gives you that option if it does go up to me. Allows your John McGinns, your Ryan Christie's to get round about and play off him. I think I think they're probably more of a goal threat at this moment in time, especially in a game like this where it might take a midfield runner to get in behind. But in terms of performance, like Michael said, it's just very hard to gauge with the Scotland team. I think tonight we have to start well. If we can't start well with a backing of a full Hampden and everybody in their house watching the game, so much riding on the game, so many people haven't seen Scotland at a World Cup. You have to start the game well. That is essential tonight. You look at the Greece game, the chances you spoke about. For me, I think we went through 3 or 4 times and players probably took the shot on the wrong foot. For me, it was on the weaker foot, just to be go and be deliberate with your action, put it in the back of the net. They didn't. They chose to play the wee 5-yard square one for somebody else. I think someone's got to take it by the scruff of the neck tonight. Who will that be? For me, John McGinn, second half, I thought he was outstanding. In terms of that drive, he was single-handedly at times, looked like a left winger, driving down that wing, putting balls in the box. So we're just going to need a bit of everything, but the fast start, I think, is going to be key tonight, because we just haven't started games well enough.
And for yourself as a player, we're billing this as one of the biggest Scotland games in years, which it is. It's winner takes all. How did nerves affect your performance?
It was more excitement, I think. When I talk about a fast start, see doing something positive early on in a game, it really does settle you down. But if pass goes astray and then that leads to someone else round about you making a mistake, that's when the nerves start coming in. So that's why you hear it's one of the old cliches, isn't it, about a good start. But a good start is the thing that allows you to settle into the game, find your touch, find a teammate, and then you kind of take the game to the opposition. So if we go to Hampden tonight, you get that back into the crowd and you don't match it with a performance early on in the game, that's when the nerves creep in, because then you start overthinking things. And I think this one team, second half, you look at it when it was kind of let's go for it, that's when you kind of seen the best of them in terms of attacking sense.
Ray, see that point that Scott made about the fans as well. I think that's important, because at the press conference yesterday, both Steve Clarke and Andy Robertson met the crowd, and getting that energy from the crowd from the start, and them having to do something to kind of, earn it, feed off each other kind of thing, And listen, we talk up the Hampden crowd a lot, but it was interesting that the two of them brought that up almost kind of unprompted. So I think there's no question that the old kind of Hampden atmosphere and power could, is going to be a factor as far as the players are concerned tonight.
I think, yeah, I noticed that from Steve Clarke yesterday. So I think it's all very well good doing that, but as far as I can think, we've played 4 games at Hampden this year, and we've been pretty honking in all of them. You've got the 3-0 Greece loss. We beat Greece 3-1. No one knows how. The Belarus game, which actually looks a better result, and thingy. Yeah, it's all very well good calling on the fans, but even you go back to that Iceland game, there's so many times where we've not turned up this year. It's going to be, the fans will be there. The fans back in Athens was incredible. Michael, for you, I mean, I think all the discussion before the game on Saturday was who's going to start in goals. I think we can all agree it'll be Craig Gordon again, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Michael, for you, back 4 tonight, because that's as bad a defensive performance in that first half. Well, actually, the start of the second half as well, as we've had in a long time. Do you think Steve Clarke goes for the same 4, or do you expect changes?
We were talking yesterday, and I think the general chat is whether McKenna might come in for Hanley. Listen, Steve Clarke gives nothing away to us. He prides himself on it, but he is fundamentally a guy who doesn't change his team too often. It was interesting, Ray. If you remember the Greece doubleheader in March, we went to Athens, played well, won. Maybe carried a wee bit of luck, but we won. And then we came back and we stank the place out 3 days later at Hampden. And Clarke said after that he regretted not making more changes. I think 1 change, was it? The Greeks made half a dozen, and they looked fresher and younger and had far more energy. So I wondered about it, and I asked him yesterday, I said, you go back to that, it's the same scenario, you go to Athens, fly back, and you've got another big game 3 days later. But he said that he really felt things were different. The mood was different this time. The players felt more ready. The circumstances being different. And he mentioned the Turkish training camp that we had. And his point being that they had a long flight to Athens, then play, then fly back. They'd had a short flight after a week of training to Athens and then back. So, listen, it's marginal gains and all that sort of stuff. But, listening to him made me think not going to make that many changes, because he feels the players are ready. Probably Saturday night, I don't know if you guys would agree, Saturday night is probably the strongest team that was available to him. Yeah. And a game like this, again, you would go... Would you add Lewis Ferguson instead of Billy Gilmore? Available.
I know that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Do you think, like, for me, it's some people would maybe people who were Aberdeen fans would say they like Kenny McLean in there. An older head kind of maybe gives you more control than Lewis Ferguson.
Yeah.
This is just up for debate.
No, absolutely. And listen, I don't think Lewis Ferguson's really shown his Bologna form for Scotland over the piece, but he started a lot of these qualifiers, hasn't he, in this campaign. Listen, Steve Clarke has his favourites. We know that. And guys that have served him well: Kenny McLean, Grant Hanley, Lyndon Dykes, Shea Adams. I think, Ray, the two questions, the two kind of obvious changes might be McKenna for Hanley, might be Dykes coming in for Adams.
Yeah, it's funny because Dykes is the one that will be mentioned. Scott, you were mentioning the link-up play, yeah. Do you think, Scott, there's any chance Shankland's getting chucked in to start? Because that is what the fans wanted the other day.
No. Listen, I totally understand why fans call for it, but at that international level, when the way Scotland are, every man has a job off the ball. Does Lauren Shankland off the ball press better than Shea Adams or trigger the press better than Shea Adams? The answer would probably be no. Lauren Shankland is, for me, by far the best finisher out of the three. There's no getting away from that. I think his form for Hearts, he's been outstanding. We're seeing the best of him again, but there's no way for me. I think Steve Clarke, by the way, starts Lauren Shankland and is the one up front in such a big game. I think coming on to have an impact, and obviously puts him on at the end of the game the other night, but not from the start. And that's purely based on how the team's usually set up, and that's, you need 11 players kind of when you are behind the ball doing a job for the team. And I think I would say Lyndon Dykes and Shea Adams probably do that side slightly better than what Lauren Shankland would. Yeah,
Dykes ended up playing left wing when he came on the other night. For you, Scott, you mentioned him there. You were one of these kind of midfielders as well. How big a miss is Billy Gilmore going to be? Would you have stuck him right back in if he was fit?
Yeah, if he was fit, he plays for me. Listen, I think out of all of our midfielders, especially one who is in a very important area, and he's the type of player that you have to have in your team to give you some sort of control with the ball and work your way. He's the guy that links everything between defence and attack. I think on the other side, when Billy Gilmore's playing well, he's one of the players where, because he's always available for the ball, he actually settles down guys round about you. That's the importance of having a player like that. A lot of times in Scotland you hear, we need an enforcer in there, but you can't underestimate how important it is with someone who can handle the ball under real pressure, always available for the ball, and what that does psychologically for guys in your team, because it just eases the nerves. Give me the ball, I'll take it, give me the ball, and that kind of spreads throughout your team. So very unfortunate that he misses out tonight, but listen, it's going to take everyone tonight, and someone's going to have to be that sort of driving force in there.
Yeah, Michael, for you, I know you said you were at the press conference yesterday. What does Steve Clarke say about the Denmark side? Because how do you think they're going to approach this, only needing a point?
Excuse me. Well, he was very complimentary. I imagine he wasn't going to come in and slack off and say that they're bottom-ers or anything like that. He thought that the Belarus result that they had would not be a factor, and the Danish manager said the same thing. Actually, Brian Reimer came in and said, "Listen, professional football." Now, Scott will maybe tell us that this isn't the case, but he said, "Listen, professional footballers can put that out of their heads immediately. They're not going to be sitting in the dressing room worried about what they did at the weekend and feeling that chance they had to get there." I don't know. I mean, I would have thought that would be in their heads, frankly. That they could have made this trip to Glasgow a jaunt for them, because they could have won the group. They'd have been 7 points ahead of us. 8 goals ahead of us on goal difference if they'd won with a late winner at the weekend. We weren't. Obviously there's no prospect of catching that. Instead, they're going to come into this cauldron at Hampden. Now, they may handle it. Italy handled it in 2007. My hope, and I think it's true, is that this Danish team is not as strong as that Italy team was the last time we had circumstances kind of like this. You said earlier on, Ray, that it's been here before, and that is true. There's no question it does, and we've kind of tended to fail these tests in the past. But it is slightly different. This isn't to earn a playoff. This is to go straight to the World Cup. It's a home game against a strong team, but not an elite team. It's not France, Spain, or Italy. And they've shown a little bit of vulnerability themselves. So it's losable, but I think it's winnable as well. That's just what makes it really fascinating.
Yeah, it's so funny saying it's losable first before you saying it's winnable. That is such a Scottish turn of phrase, Michael. Scott, for you, Michael mentioned there about putting a game out your head. As a player, how easy is it to do it?
Just depends on the personality of the player. I think for me, defenders will go. We've shipped 2 goals against Belarus, so automatically you're Steve Clarke and you're watching the game, but you'll understand that there will be vulnerabilities there in defence if we can work the ball into the areas and put them under pressure. That's the key thing. I think Michael's quote there is that is it tonight in a nutshell. It's losable, but it's most definitely winnable. If Scotland and some of these players give us a performance, then I've no doubt we will create chances to go and win the game. So whether you take them, you look at the chances the other night, as we spoke about earlier in the show, you have to take them tonight, and that's going to be key. The start, when you get chances present themselves, can you take them? And then ultimately you've got to defend your box well. It's as simple as that. We go through tactics, all the things that a lot of people want to break it real down, but man for man, player for player, all your individual battles, and then when you have moments to show quality, you have to show up. The players in our Scotland team are playing. There's a good few of them playing at a high level. They have to be ready for this tonight, because we're not going to get a better opportunity in this, and that's why it's so exciting for us. But this team, Denmark for me, they are beatable.
Yep, I totally agree. I was there 2, 3, 4 years ago and beat them 2-0. John Suter scored. Michael, finally, before we move on to having a look at the manager and a couple of other things, Denmark and the stomach bug, is it a real thing?
Yeah, it is a real thing, but I don't think we should really hold too much hope about they're all going to be kind of limping and spewing their way onto the pitch at Hampden. Listen, they did miss Hoyland and Joachim Andersen at the weekend against Belarus, and he was asked about Rasmus Hoyland yesterday, and he kind of said, "Well, he's not trained. He hasn't trained. Missed the game. Hasn't trained since. Obviously, was under the weather, but he has travelled. He is here. Obviously, we're talking about Napoli centre forward on loan from Man United. He's going to be a threat. He would play if he's okay. So listen, I think they won't be far off the team that Brian Reamer would want to play with. So I think we just need to, we can't go in with any kind of mindset that they're weakened or they're feeling a bit sickly or whatever. We need to be on it against a team that we're assuming will be right up for it. And by the way, the coach was asked, will you be able to kind of handle how up for it Hampden will be? And he said, well, they won't be as up for it as we are. And it was like, oh, okay, right. And listen, who knows? Maybe he's good with messaging and communication. But it was like, all right. It looked to me like, right, this team's going to be fired up for this every bit as much as we are.
Okay, let's have a look at what the result could mean tonight for Scotland. So obviously, we win, we qualify, we go to the World Cup. Scott Allan, for you, if we win tonight, do you think that makes Steve Clarke the greatest Scotland manager ever? Michael's absolutely over the moon. He did not get that question, by the way.
You're probably just going to give it to me anyway.
It would be since I'm obviously born in 91, so yes, Craig Brown.
So many people hate you just for saying that sentence, Scott. So many. 91.
So I remember France 98. I remember parts of it. Would he be the best? If he's able to give us the World Cup now, I think he would be right up there. Am I going to say the best of all time? I'm not going to commit to that. But for me, listen, you would have to compliment him on the job that he has done, because it's been this would top it off. I think, as I said, I've not seen a World Cup since '98. A lot of Scotland fans haven't seen it ever. So you would have to give him the praise that he's got this squad to these tournaments. So for me, this would be the biggest achievements of all for a long, long time.
Yeah, I was chatting to some guys out in Athens, and they were 26, and they said they can't imagine a time with Scotland in a World Cup. And when you put it as that, it seems a bit mental. So, Michael, I won't give you that question just because you stubbornly said that. So I'm going to dig my heels in. If we fail tonight, obviously Steve Clarke's out of contract pretty soon. I'd expect him to stay in the playoffs, but if we don't go through tonight, where do we go next? Because either way, it seems like Steve Clarke is ready to hang up his, what would you say for a manager? his jacket, his whistle. I don't know. What's he hanging up rather than his boots?
Yeah, yeah. Listen, I don't think it's any secret that he's going to leave when this campaign for Scotland. Now, we hope that that'll be Canada and Mexico next summer. But it could end in March. I mean, listen, it's kind of weird because see when you saw the scenes at the Ireland game when they were going berserk about securing a playoff, and rightly so. By God, what a way to do it! But we've got a playoff already secured. It doesn't kind of feel like that, does it? It's almost like nobody's really that pleased about the playoff, almost, But it's there for us. Steve Clarke will be what he will be. Ray is the most successful Scotland manager we've ever had if he does this, because he'll be the first to take us to 3 tournaments. Back-to-back Euros, and now if he does it a World Cup. But I do think his whole reign is defined by this World Cup in some degrees, because either he'll be the guy that took us back after 28 years, or he'll be seen as, well, brilliant, couple of Euros, we loved them. Well, we loved getting there. We loved actually. That's another point. But he couldn't get us to World Cup,
That's a separate show.
But, yeah. So yeah, listen, he's been a good, successful man. He's open to criticism and he gets criticism, and I do think that it could still end badly for him or negatively for him. I hope it doesn't. But we had a must-win game at the weekend. We thought, and we didn't win. We've got a must-win game tonight. Who knows? The playoffs, they go badly. Steve will get a lot of criticism, I think, for the way things will have tailed off. Against all of that, if we do it tonight or if we do it in the playoffs, he can ride off into the sunset as the most successful Scotland manager we've ever had. 3 tournaments.
Yeah. I don't think anyone would care if we get there. It doesn't matter how we do it. You're right about the playoffs, though. Scott, for you, I mean, we're talking a lot about Steve Clarke and his, not so much his management style, but his loyalty to players. Is he the kind of manager you would have enjoyed playing for over years? Because sometimes he's labelled as a bit pessimistic, a bit pragmatic.
I had him at West Brom.
Oh, did you? God, yeah, I didn't scroll that far back up the Wikipedia, Scott. It was too long, so I didn't get there.
You'd have been there all day. He came in after Roy Hodgson, and then he ultimately released me. So yeah.
Good judge of character. Good judge.
We're getting it.
But I remember when he came back up to Kilmarnock, we were playing against Hibs. I was chatting to him for ages, and at that time, the things that he probably thought about me as a player were probably right. So I had no hard feelings or anything. But training that was good. I remember training that was good. Also, didn't play in terms of competitive under him. Went the pre-season tour and all that. Training that was really good at the time. But it's a different job, isn't it, at West Brom at that time, coming in off the back of Roy Hodgson, finishing, I think it was 10th we finished the season before, and then doing a good job at Kilmarnock. It ultimately comes down to how you like to watch football. I think that's where the questions come from. Would be a lot more on the front foot. I think with the players, I'd be more aggressive, and yes, you might be a bit open sometimes at the back. But I think if you really get after teams, you don't allow them to settle in the games. That was probably the biggest thing for me on Saturday, looking at it. I think it was the first time we had a week to prepare. We'd already played them. I think it was 3 times previously.
This year.
And we still couldn't quite work out how to take a wee bit of control off them in terms of how they play with the ball. It seemed miles away in terms of distances, and that was always a big thing for Steve Clarke. Wanting to get close to opposition, to put them under pressure, not being a lot of gaps. There was a lot of gaps. You play with Suter and Hanley and Craig Gordon. Obviously, I wouldn't say we were great legs in terms of running back 50, 60 yards. So to go with that high line, which you did in the second half, you had to, because we were getting beat, first of all. But that's the space where naturally as a player, defenders like that want to protect that space. So if the distances aren't good enough, that's when teams like that who have good rotations in midfield, they just find space, and it looks very easy, and that's why it did at times. But once you went after them, yes, you do run the risk of giving away goals, but the goals were they were preventable. That then came down to defending, between one-on-one defending. Ultimately, that's what it was. So that's the questions with Steve Clarke for me. It's how you see the game, isn't it? I suppose, and can you get performance with result? He ultimately has gave his results, but for me, I think going to watch Scotland, I think we've got good enough players now where I want to see performance alongside it.
Yeah, totally. I think we've all three of us have waffled on enough. Let's get to the key bit for tonight, Michael. Prediction. What are you going for? Are we going to do it? Scott's got his head in his hands already. It's going to be a long day for you, Scott. Michael, what are we doing?
You know, quite often you get a gut instinct for how a game is going to go, and I've got to be honest. I can picture us celebrating at the end of this game. I can see that in my head, and I can also see the opposite. You know, and Scott's laughing here because he's gonna have to face this question in a few seconds. You know, I don't know, Ray. I don't have a feeling, because you know why? I don't know if Scotland are going to turn up and perform. They're not quite reliable enough to be able to trust them to do it. Steve Clarke used that very word yesterday. I trust these players. So let's hope he's right, because I think if they do, then they win. So yeah, okay, let's say we'll do it.
Okay, Scott?
Yeah, I think it's one of these nights in isolation where there's these players, your Andy Robertsons, your John McGinns, your Christies, your Craig Gordons again, where the games and the players are going to get the result tonight. I think they're going to produce something for us tonight. I think shootout against Denmark to get to the World Cup. So I'm going to be positive. I'm saying we're going to do it.
Great. Well, that's all we get time for. Many thanks to Michael and Scott, and thank you for listening. Remember, we're here with new episodes of Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day. So to make sure you don't miss out, subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on in your phone. Both Michael and Scott didn't sound that optimistic about the game, but I think you've got to think back to one of Michael Grant's favourite Japanese proverbs. It's losable, but it's winnable. Hopefully we do it. See you tomorrow.
On BBC Sounds. From life aboard a Russian submarine to chairman of Hearts Football Club.
At this stage, he was the hero.
But as his controversial decisions escalated,
they said, we're going to sack George. And I'm going, you can't do this.
How did Vladimir Romanov go from Hearts saviour to a wanted man?
He caused a whole load of chaos and havoc.
Romanov, Tsar of Hearts. Listen now on BBC Sounds.